Today, I'm going to tell you about a plane that was the undisputed king of the airline industry, a plane that was considered a superstar. This was no ordinary aircraft. It was the Concorde supersonic jet. Yes, its speed was almost like a bullet fired from a gun, extremely fast. It was a true status symbol, where only the wealthy, politicians, and celebrities could afford to fly.
It's always exciting flying supersonic, and it's always exciting to get to New York before you've left.
Ordinary people couldn't even dream of buying a ticket. Despite 30 years of continuous service, this plane never had a crash or any major incident. So then, how could a tiny metal strip, no bigger than a pencil, bring down the entire airline career of this aircraft forever?
The world's most prestigious aircraft crashes. More than 100 people are dead.
Accidents happen in other airlines, but why was this one permanently grounded? Here is the story of the Titanic of the airline industry, a story that will surely shock you soon.
It's the beginning of the big work.
25th, 2000, the fateful day that would forever doom the Concorde. The plane was supposed to take off from Charles de Gaulle Airport in France and land at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York, USA. The Concorde did take off, but it never reached its destination. The time was 2:42 p.m. The Concorde was aligned on the runway. Clearance had been given. The engines were at full power, like a beast being unleashed, but nobody knew that a problem had already fallen onto the runway. Seconds earlier, another plane, a Continental Airlines DC-10, had taken off from the same runway. From its engine, a small metal strip broke off and fell onto the runway. Here, the runway staff made a critical mistake that would lead to the destruction of the entire aircraft. To save time, they skipped the runway inspection. Runway inspections are crucial because during takeoff and landing, planes travel at extremely high speeds, and even a tiny object can become a major problem. If a metal strip, bolt, nut, or broken piece is lying on the runway, and a plane's tire rolls over it at high speed, it can slice through the tire, just like a knife cuts through soft material. Plane tires are made of rubber under extremely high pressure, so if a sharp metal hits them, the tire can burst or explode. When this happens, pieces of rubber and heat can reach the fuel tank, creating a risk of fire or explosion. That's why runways are inspected after every flight, to prevent even the smallest object from causing a catastrophic accident. Now, the Concorde began its takeoff roll. Speed increased. The runway passed beneath it. Exactly 35 seconds later, the Concorde had covered 1,700 meters. The first officer calmly announced, V1. This meant abort is no longer possible. Whatever happens, it will happen in the air. The very next second, disaster struck. The Concorde's left tire ran over the metal strip. The tire burst with a massive explosion, and heavy pieces of rubber flew at bullet speed into the fuel tank. The fuel tank was punctured. Fuel began to leak and caught fire immediately. In the cockpit, there was still silence. The pilots didn't know about the fire yet. The airport air traffic controller shouted over the radio, "Your aircraft is on fire." Here's some important context. The Concorde had 4 engines, 2 engines under the left wing, 2 engines under the right wing. As mentioned before, these engines were not like normal commercial engines. They were turbojets, similar to fighter jets, which is why Concorde could reach such incredible speeds. The left engines began sucking in smoke from the fire. One engine shut down, then the second one followed. Now, the Concorde was flying only on the 2 right side engines. The plane was losing speed and unable to gain altitude. The flaps on the left wing started to melt. The metal was literally melting from the heat. The captain desperately turned right, trying to regain control at any cost. But the plane was becoming heavier, speed was dropping, and it couldn't lift properly. Just 121 seconds after takeoff, the Concorde crashed into a hotel building. There were 109 people on board, 100 passengers, 6 cabin crew, 3 pilots. In addition, 4 people on the ground were killed at the hotel. In total, 113 lives were lost.
The world's most prestigious aircraft crashes. More than 100 people are dead.
Now you might be wondering, how did investigators figure out that this metal strip came from a Continental Airlines DC-10? Well, after the crash, the entire area was sealed by police and the aviation authorities. No one could enter. only the investigators. The first task was to recover the black box, which records the flight's last data and cockpit conversations. When the black box was analyzed, they discovered that the plane had made a sharp left turn at a certain point. Investigators went to that exact spot and scanned the runway in detail. And finally, that's where they found the metal strip that the Concorde's tire had run over. Here begins the real twist. Investigators then checked which plane had used the runway before the Concorde. Records showed that it was a Continental Airlines DC-10. They inspected the DC-10 and, shockingly, found that a metal strip was missing from its engine. Then, they looked into its maintenance history, and the truth came out. The metal strip was not an original part. Technicians had performed a cheap improvised repair against the company's official rule. The strip had 37 drilled holes, which made it unable to handle vibrations. During takeoff, the strip shook loose and fell onto the runway. After the accident, the Concorde was immediately grounded. Now you might ask, why was Concorde never brought back permanently? It wasn't shut down immediately after the crash. After the accident, Concorde was temporarily grounded, safety upgrades were made, and it did fly again. But there were other negative factors that led to its permanent retirement. The first reason was its sonic boom. As we learned earlier, when the Concorde flew at supersonic speeds, air shock waves formed in front of and behind the plane. When these waves reached the ground, people heard a very loud explosion-like sound. People were often startled, and in some cases, windows were even damaged. Concorde took off and landed at low altitudes, which made the boom more noticeable. While the plane itself didn't cause damage, the noise and vibration irritated people, leading to protests against it. The second reason was its high ticket price. Not everyone could afford it. Imagine paying $20,000 for a trip based on today's value. The third reason was fuel consumption. The plane had 4 jet engines, consuming 4 times more fuel than normal planes. The final and biggest reason was maintenance cost. For a normal passenger plane like a Boeing 737, annual maintenance costs around $1 to $1.4 million, including engine checks, airframe inspections, and routine C and D checks. The hourly cost per flight is about $150 per flight hour. For the Concorde, maintenance was much more complex and expensive. 1 hour of flight required 100 hours of maintenance work. In 2003, according to British Airways, the annual operating cost of the entire Concorde fleet was about $1 billion, which would be over $2 billion today after adjusting for inflation. In simple words, the high fuel and maintenance costs, the need for specialized technicians, advanced checks, and unique parts made it extremely expensive to operate. Moreover, when Concorde returned to service, the 9/11 attacks had already crashed the airline industry, making its operation even more unviable. On October 24, 2003, Concorde had its last commercial flight when British Airways officially retired its supersonic passenger service. That flight was from New York to London Heathrow, marking a grand farewell.
An era came to an end today, however, when a set of landing gear screeched down upon the pavement at London's Heathrow Airport. The Concorde is no more.